Hi, Ed. How are you?
I'm good.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this video spotlight series. And I know you're new to the marketing committee for the ABC, and I'm the chair. And it's been such a great experience having you on our committee. I've really appreciated your contributions. So I wanted to make sure that other fellow board certified attorneys had an opportunity to learn more about you, and I'm anxious to hear as well and get to know who you are and where you practice. So go ahead, introduce us to yourself. Who are you? What do you do, and where do you practice?
Yep. My name's Ed Boltz. I'm a consumer bankruptcy attorney. I represent debtors in Chapter 7s and Chapter 13s throughout the state of North Carolina, where I live.
Okay. Are you from North Carolina originally?
Oh, I grew up in Michigan. And then because after I graduated from law school, my wife was still getting her graduate degree at Duke, so I moved down here. And by the time she finished, we were pretty much settled in, and then started having kids. So that locks you in location pretty well.
Yeah, it does. What part of North Carolina? What city are you in?
I live in Durham, so pretty much straight in the center of the state, about halfway between the mountains and the beach. So, that's also a lovely part about being in North Carolina is you can go to the beach on short notice, or you can go to the mountains on fairly short notice. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Perfect. You said, I know you mentioned before our recording that you have two kids. How many, two kids? How old are they?
yeah, I
And what are
have
their
two
names?
daughters. Two daughters, Julia, who's 21, and Elizabeth, who's 18. And Julia's a senior at UNC here in North, 7 miles down the road from us. And my
Yeah.
youngest, Elizabeth, we're taking her off to college next week at Georgetown up in DC. So
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell me how you got into bankruptcy.
So, like I said, I moved down to North Carolina after I graduated from law school, and the job I got was working for a consumer bankruptcy firm. I'd taken no bankruptcy classes in law school. I knew nothing about bankruptcy.
Mhm.
I got hired, and my then boss and now law partner, sat me down and said, "Here, read Judge London's Chapter 13 bankruptcy book. It's only 1,500 pages long." And so I did that, and still knew nothing. But after a few years, I really came to love just doing, representing consumers in the bankruptcy courts here in North Carolina.
Awesome. So tell me what kind of firm that you're in now. You're a partner, and is it a small firm or?
It is, for a consumer practice, I think we're fairly large. We have a total of 12 lawyers at our firm and another 70 staff working here. So in North Carolina, yeah, 70 paralegals,
Wow.
call and so forth. And consumer practice is very heavy on paralegal work, to handle the grind of all the documents and the calls and the problems that go in a practice. So we're the largest consumer firm for sure in North Carolina by probably at least twice as big, if not a little bigger than anybody, even that. And probably one of the bigger ones that just does consumer work in the whole country. And we file,
Do you do collect? Do you just do all debtor, Chapter 7, Chapter 13?
all debtor, Chapter 7, Chapter 13. And then we do related stuff to that. We've expanded where we do mortgage litigation related to representing our clients. We do fair debt collection practices. We do credit reporting work. And we also do, over the last 6 or 8 years, a lot more student loan work. Some of that in bankruptcy, but some of it without needing to file a bankruptcy for folks. So all debtor related work, but 95% of it is directly related to a bankruptcy case.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great to know. I'm glad I asked that question because it helps me understand your substantial involvement in this area. I know a lot of the people that are active are mostly business bankruptcy attorneys, and I appreciate your participation, and it's really good to know an expert in this space, even if it is North Carolina. Are you licensed in other states?
Nope. I've not needed to go anywhere else, especially in part, because North Carolina bankruptcy, since we're not under the U.S. trustee system, I don't, I'm not wanting to go anywhere else and have to suddenly deal with the UST for the first time ever. So, unless I wanted to go to Alabama and practice, I'm sticking with the
Yeah,
VAs. They're the devil I know rather than the devil I don't.
I get it. I understand. Okay. Tell me about your involvement with the ABC. How long have you been board certified? And what's your involvement?
So North Carolina was a fairly early adopter of the specialty certification. So first became bankruptcy certified in 2004, right before the bankruptcy laws changed.
Okay.
And then it would have been in 2007 or that North Carolina shifted its bankruptcy specialist to the ABC so to run that for them. So that's, but I was legacied in. I didn't have to take the test a second time or anything like that. So my timing was perfect because I was able to take the exam under the pre-BAP-CIPA law because I actually know, somebody who's on the board after BAP-CIPA, they didn't have a test for 2 or 3 years because she told me, and she's a judge now, but she told me that for several years after BAP-CIPA, the correct answer would have always been, I don't know, for everything for several years, right? Because, and that's the polite way of saying it, right? So I was very fortunate. I took it then, and then ABC took over, and I was able to just switch into that. So I've been, ABC certified going back for 18 years now, I guess it is, something
Wow.
like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I forgot what I was going to ask you. I can't remember. How long were you involved on the board before and in different capacities?
I think I've been on the ABC board now for 3 or 4 years, maybe. I think I started during the pandemic, if that's, but I was on the what's it, the one where we review people's recertifications, the standards, right? With Joe Garamore, who showed me the ropes there, where we look at people's recertification applications and figure out whether their CLE dates are correct and whether something counts as bankruptcy related or not, all of that joy of
Joe
doing
was
that.
my standard partner also, Joe Garamore.
What?
He was my standard partner also.
Oh, really? Okay, he's
Yeah.
great because he knows what he's doing, and he's not, now I'm somebody else's, and so you graduate from Joe. I feel like he's a good first mentor on that, like, because he knows the rules, he knows, and he also knows, all right, this is not important. We'll just move past that thing.
Exactly.
You got to have your notarizations in, for what, but other than that, the things that are important. So that was great working with him.
Yeah, me too. Are there several board certified attorneys in your firm? Or are you it?
Yeah, there are 2 certified, 2 others certified, and 2 who are taking the exam this coming year. I guess in October, I think it is when that test is next again.
Yeah, awesome, very cool. Okay, back to our question. Okay, and within Chapter 7 bankruptcy, do you have a niche, like a specialization and all?
Yeah, well, I guess in terms of where, the extra, the bonus skill set is that I'm pretty good. I'm pretty knowledgeable about student loans, in that I've served, I helped work, through my involvement with NACBA, and I helped the Department of Justice and Education draft the student loan adversary guidelines that they put out in 2020, end of 2022. That have made it easier for people to get student loan discharges in bankruptcy. I've served on the Department of Education's negotiating rulemaking committee as an alternate when they were, under the previous administration. So everything I did has sort of been washed away a little bit. But so I am fairly adept when it comes to student loans, both bankruptcy options and non-bankruptcy options, and how to make those fit together, which has been a challenge over the last several years to always get the things that you can do for somebody outside of bankruptcy to work while they're also in bankruptcy, getting those to work together has been something that I've put a lot of energy into over the last.
Very cool. I'm glad I asked the question. Sorry.
That's
Okay.
all right.
All right. Let's see. Can you describe, like, who is one of your ideal clients?
So I guess the easy client in a bankruptcy is the person who doesn't exist because they probably wouldn't be filing a consumer bankruptcy if they met, but it's the person who can produce all their documents quickly, who can answer questions coherently and without, a long rambling story, and who has the money to pay me quickly. But none of those ever exist at the same time. I don't know if they exist in the business bankruptcy world, but if they had if they had all their house in order and had a pile of cash to pay me, they probably wouldn't need my help in the first place. So, my perfect client never exists. So that's where, we end up trying to meet the debtors where they are, which is always hard, because, especially, I think this is probably true everywhere, but in our, where we practice, we have clients who live in the city, live in the country. They have different levels of education, from being graduate degrees down to maybe not even literate, right? We have, that whether they have, how tech savvy they are. We have people who work for top-notch video game designing companies who can do way more than I could ever hope to people who don't know how to, still use a dial phone, not just dial up internet, right? So, for us, it's trying to be, not to have the perfect client, but to be the best firm that we can to fit where they are, which means a whole variety of people, especially because my clients are usually, especially at the beginning of the case, they're not the best version of themselves that they could be because they are under a lot of stress. They've been in the debt collection sweatbox, as the academics call it, for a while, and they're often not the best person, right? They're frazzled, they're stressed out, and so we have to do a lot of hand holding and social work as part of our representation too, it feels like.
Yeah. Can you hold on? Sorry. So I wrote an article. It was called "The Dark Side of Practicing Business Bankruptcy." Like you, I stumbled into the practice of bankruptcy law. I was doing M&A work and securities work, and I was at a big firm. They needed somebody in their bankruptcy group, and in Wilmington, Delaware. And I had an MBA. I stumbled into business bankruptcy, and I have loved the practice. I find that it's both transactional and litigation. So it's a hybrid practice. It's like never boring. It's collegial. But one of the difficult things, I still struggle with it, is the social work aspect of it, where you are dealing with people. I do a lot of, like, I specialize in representing the individuals that own the company and they're liable on the personal guarantee and stuff like that. And so it's people that are just in the absolute worst part of their life, and or people that have made really bad choices and continue to make bad choices, and there's an integrity issue, and that's tough to swallow. And they don't pay, and I'm chasing money, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, why did I pick this area of the law? It's very challenging. But at the same time, I view it as a public service too. So I wondered, like, what are your thoughts on that, and how have you come to deal with some, like, one year I had some, during the pandemic, I had some really challenging personal issues for 3 of my clients. I was like, oh my gosh, very stressful to me too. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so and it's always one of the things for me, the associates and our paralegals is our clients can suck our emotional well dry very quickly, because and you have to learn how to make sure that their problems are your problems when it comes to the bankruptcy aspects of it, and not personally, right? And that's always the challenge, is to be caring and compassionate, but then to be able at the end of the day to put it in a box and go home and not lose sleep over it. And I'm by no means perfect or always successful at that, because there are cases where I wake up in the middle of the night worried about something, right? and feel terrible that you weren't able to get the result that you'd hoped for that person. But at the same point, to be able to help the next person, I have to put boundaries around it, because otherwise you end up helping one person and then you're done, right? And so that's one of the things that's always, I think, very difficult, is to find the right balance for the boundaries and the compartmentalization, with, especially when, because all of my clients are people, right? They're, and they have the exact same problems you had, and then you add on to that all of the, they're, what's the old blues song? If they didn't have bad luck, they wouldn't have any luck at all, right? And so everything, especially when you have somebody in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy that can last 5+ years, right? So many things go wrong, and then we're the only attorney that they have, and so when other things that aren't bankruptcy related, they come to us too, and that's where I had to try to find somebody, also sort of the legal boundaries of, I'm not your divorce attorney, I can't help you with that. I'm not your traffic ticket lawyer, I can't help you with that. I'm not, it's those things too, because they look at us, well, you're my lawyer, right? This is the first time they've had a lawyer on retainer, but I'm a lawyer on retainer for cheap, is the problem too.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, thank you for that. Let's see. So describe one of your favorite client engagements or favorite memories as a practitioner.
Yeah, so I was thinking, when you told me that question, I was thinking, not too long ago, I had, we have at our firm, because doing consumer work is it's retail practice, right? You're constantly having to generate new clients, because each one is just a small, is a reasonable fee, hopefully, but it's not huge, right? So you're constantly, we do tons of advertising, and one of the ways that we advertise is we've got it's smaller now because it shrunk during the pandemic, but we had at one point a fleet of wrapped vehicles that had my partner's face on it, and signs that said, file bankruptcy, and here's our 800 number and everything like that. Which I drove one of them for a while, and I was going through the car wash, and well, usually after driving it for a while, my partner, he's 20 years older than me, but the picture on the side of the car is from about when he was in his mid-50s, like I am. And so people would always say, oh, you're John Orcutt. And if I argued with them, they'd get mad at me, like I was trying to hide from them or something, like, because he was like, he's a minor celebrity or whatever. But this kid working, probably 18, 19 years old, working at the car wash, who, the pull forward guy, he says, hey, John Orcutt. And I'm like, yeah, John Orcutt. I'm John Orcutt. He's like, can I get a picture of you and me next to your truck to send to my mom? And I'm like, all right, sure, but are the people behind me in line going to get angry? And they start honking, and he's like, whatever, ignore them. I get out, he snaps a picture with his phone, and he said, I'm sending this to my mom because you guys saved our house, and I grew up my mom was able to save the home that I grew up in because of you. And even saying that now, I get a little teary, because this kid, we kept him in his home. And his mom did the hard thing. She filed a Chapter 13. She struggled her way through it. And so that was one of the even though he misidentified me, I was still one of my proudest moments. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that story. That is an awesome story. It really is. It's cool. Yeah. I tell people, like, the bankruptcy code and knowledge of it, it's like having a magic wand. I mean, you can utilize these powerful elements of the bankruptcy code to save things, save jobs, save businesses. It's fun. Okay, let's see. What do you do in your spare time?
So among the things I do in my spare time, I run a fair bit, a couple times a week, not too far. I'm not too fast, but I enjoy that because it gives me a good break. I did end up having a little bit of an accident about 1.5 years ago from that, but I'm mostly recovered. I read a lot. I travel with my family, and I do, and among the things I read way too much of, and people say, is I just blog about bankruptcy, because even though I fell into it, I just am such a bankruptcy dork now that I just love, I love thinking about bankruptcy cases, trying to find some, I read almost all the cases that come out of the 3 courts here in North Carolina. I love to find something that one of you guys did in a chapter 11 that I can twist and turn and make applicable in chapter 13, because if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. So that's, among the things I do, but.
Love that. That's awesome. It's very cool. Okay. Let's see. Tell us something not everyone knows about you.
So in addition to the other groups that I'm involved with, like ACB and NACBA and API and things like that, I'm also the head of a local storytelling nonprofit organization where we put on monthly basis various storytelling shows where people come up and they, there's two events, one which is a competitive storytelling show and another which is what we call a curated one, where you work with my best friend who's the executive director to tell a story. And I've told probably a dozen stories at this, about some serious, some humorous. It's called The Monty, and you can watch that at themonty.org. They have tons of videos up there, including maybe 1 or 2 of mine.
Very cool. Can't wait for school to be back. It's our first day of school next Tuesday.
No.
That's cool. I'm really into, I love story. I think as lawyers, it's all about the telling of the story. I am a storyteller for my clients' stories, but I also do photography, and I tell pictures about people through photography. And my sister actually was really into storytelling, and she went to a storytelling festival in, I think, Tennessee. Do you go to those? Really cool.
I have one. Yeah, it's out. Yeah, it's out somewhere near Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, somewhere around Valley Parton. Yeah.
That's cool. Can you share us a link? Like when I post this, will you share me a link or 2 of you telling the story?
Yeah, I'll try to find one, especially that's safe for the workplace environment too. So yeah.
Okay. That is cool. Yeah, I'm really into the moth. I love to listen to the moth.
No, this is my friend gets, it is largely based on the moth. So it's the North Carolina moth, even though he, probably shouldn't say that for trademark purposes, but anyways.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. Do you have advice for clients?
So I guess the advice I always have for clients is that most of them would have been better off if they came to see a bankruptcy attorney sooner than they actually did, because too many people try to hold off, and the bankruptcy doesn't become easier the longer you wait, usually, especially when they, because that gives them more time to do unwise things and make foolish choices, right? Like that, and that's largely because I think the stigmas and the fear that bankruptcy is, most people don't understand how powerful, and like you said, it's a magic wand in many cases that can solve all of these problems. And so they're scared of it, and then they just do silly things like giving their mom $1,000, and then coming to see me. No, keep the $1,000 and you can give it to her after you file the bankruptcy, right? And you won't have a problem. But you give your mom $1,000 before, and it's just headaches, right? And headaches and delays. So it's talk to a lawyer sooner rather than later, especially since most consumer attorneys do a free consult of at least 30 minutes, an hour. So you can at least get an idea what you're looking at before you make that choice earlier rather than later. Right.
Good advice. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to wrap this up. It's about 10 questions, rapid fire questions. Okay. What law school did you go to?
I went to George Washington Law School in DC.
And undergrad?
Washington University in St. Louis.
In St. Louis. Okay. What is your favorite Netflix show right now?
So I think my favorite Netflix show has been, I really enjoyed Ozark, but that's a while back. So we've just started watching, my wife and I, Hightown. We're 2 episodes in, and that's pretty good.
Okay. I haven't seen either of those, but I will take note. What about a really good movie or favorite movie?
So in terms of my favorite movie, I really, thinking back, it depends, in terms of more serious, I really love the Lord of the Rings movies because I really love the Lord of the Rings books. But then, in terms of comedy, I like old stuff. I like, Blazing Saddles is probably cancelable for saying that I like that, but it's pretty funny, I think, still.
Okay. How about best vacation? Recent
So
vacation.
the best vacation, I'd say, I'll go with the most recent one. I went with my two daughters. We spent a week in Barcelona over the 4th of July this year. My youngest had spent 10 days, 12 days with my wife and her Girl Scout troop in Spain and Portugal, and then my oldest and I flew over and met her in Barcelona for a week, and we just had it was such fun. It was such a beautiful city, great food, beautiful architecture, lovely people. We had a great time, and so that was most recent.
We were in Barcelona also. Isn't that
Yeah,
funny? It was like
pretty.
around the same time. We were there July 15th.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no,
what
we
was
left on the 10th, I think. So we just missed you. Yeah.
like your favorite part of Barcelona? One
Well, I
thing.
think the Gaudi architecture is just is wild. Especially it's just fascinating how one man's vision is stamped so firmly across the whole city like that. I think is
It's
fascinating.
true.
So,
It is. It really is. Okay. What about favorite dessert?
I really like chocolate things, but but also peanut butter. So any a chocolate peanut butter dessert. But then alternatively, in the summer, my favorite dessert, the best thing I cook is I cook a strawberry rhubarb pie that I actually have to cook in the next week for my daughter before she goes off because that's the thing she's asked for before she leaves for college. So
Oh,
that's
that
one
is
of
awesome. I love that. That is awesome. How about best gift ever?
best gift ever. Well, I think probably one of the things that I've appreciated the most, even though I don't carry it, is my father gave me his pocket watch that he'd gotten from his father that belonged to his father. So my father is the one gap in there. The rest of us were Edward Boltz's. He's Russ Edward Boltz. So it's all, I've got this pocket watch that's probably at this point 100 years old. So, I just treasure that as just a family heirloom.
I love that. How about last song listened to on your iPhone?
So the last song I listened to, I just saw this. Somebody shared it with me, and it's really good. It's a song I'd never heard of the band before. The band is called Black Joe Lewis and the Honey Bears, and the song is called, and this fits for this podcast, is called "I'm Broke," and it's just this funky song about somebody singing about being broke, and that somebody shared it, in a bankruptcy group or something, and it's really good music, very very funky blues, jazz. It's great and it's hilarious. Just about being broke. So I love that.
I love that. That is fun. I'm going to put that in our link to in our show notes. Our show notes.
Yeah, I'll put a link to that too. Yeah.
How about last podcast you listened to if you listen to podcasts?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts, especially when I'm running, because I find that if I listen to music, I either go too slow or too fast and burn myself up. So I listen to podcasts. The one I've been listening, the one that I really enjoy a lot is called Swindled. It's again, it's because I'm a bankruptcy nerd, I guess, but it's about various swindles that people have committed throughout history, usually in the United States, because we're kind of the kings and queens of financial crimes, I feel like, historically. And it's from Ponzi schemes to various corporate malfeasances, snake oil salesmen, and what have you. It's very funny. The podcaster is very wry and has a dark sense of humor about it, and just goes by. His name is A Concerned Citizen. Because he doesn't want anyone. He pretends nobody should know who he is, and I bet you could figure it out. But Swindled, I recommend highly.
Very cool. Where did you grow up? I forgot
I
to
grew up
ask
in
this.
Michigan. I grew up north of Michigan, north of Detroit.
Okay. Do you have a pet?
I do. We have a dog named Nessie. It's a mutt. She's a mutt. We call it a Carolina dog because there's lots of these yellow mutt dogs around our town. So, but but yeah, she's
Okay.
she's sweet.
I like it. I love it. Last question. What is one of the best cities that you've ever visited?
My wife and I went for our anniversary 5 years or so ago to Istanbul, and it's an amazing city. It is just beautiful. The history going back 2,000 plus years, from ancient Romans and Greeks to Christians to the Turks and Muslim takeover. It's just fascinating, beautiful. The people were amazing. The food is fantastic. The Bosphorus was this, they say it happens once every 6 or 8 years. It was this blazing blue color, just the plankton or whatever.
Water?
Yeah, the water, the gap between Asia and Europe there. And it was just beautiful. And the weather was fantastic. We went in June. I'd go back to Istanbul in a heartbeat.
Very interesting. I love to travel too, so duly noted. Ed, do you go by Ed or Edward?
Ed.
Ed,
Except,
it's such a pleasure to have done this. I'm so glad we did it. Thank you so much.
you're very
I'm gonna
welcome.
stop it.